I want to spend the last hour that we have here just breaking down this incredible episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This episode, after episode 4, once we got to the end of that episode, I was like, how do you even top this, bro? I don't get how you can top this episode. What can you possibly do in these next 2 episodes that will be way better than this, right? And then as soon as the episode starts, I'm like, shit, bro, the score, right? The fight between Bucky, Sam, and John Walker.
John Walker.
It was so powerful watching that fight happen. Like, Darren, I kind of want to start with you. Since you're new to the show, let everyone know in chat, like, what were your thoughts of the first couple of episodes in general? And then again, we'll go into full spoilers on the episode.
Real quick, the one of my favorite Marvel films cinematic universe is The Winter Soldier. I still feel like that's the best
my
solo
favorite
film
one.
that Yeah, I still feel like that's the best solo film that they've done without introducing 20 billion other superheroes in it. If it just stands alone as that hero,
Agreed.
I still feel like Winter Soldier is top 2. Well, we'll leave room for another one, but top 2 at least. And for me, this is literally like an extended series of like what Winter Soldier gave us. It gave us the mystery, it gave us the espionage, it gave us the action. But when you found out, things that are going on, the fight scenes didn't disappoint. They had weight, they had story behind it, they had substance. And in a whole, Marvel is proving to us with WandaVision and this that they can flush out so much more of these characters in a matter of just 5 or 6 episodes. Like, it's so good. I thought it was going to be hard to top what WandaVision gave us. And I was like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't know how much I'm going to like. I feel like it's going to be more of what happened in Civil War when they were chasing Spider-Man. While they do give us some, the joking moments of that, the realism of this show, the gravity, the weight of this show is so good. I do believe that the finale of this is going to hit my expectations more than like what WandaVision gave me or whatnot. But as a whole, I'm going to have to let it marinate. But as a whole, the way this finishes, if it's anything like what this has given us, this is my favorite one so far, even though it's only been WandaVision in this one. But I love this series as a whole. It's shattering all of my expectations of what Marvel can give us out of these characters. So yeah, that's my overall of the show.
Yeah, man, this is an incredible show. Much like you, I was like, well, shit, like, even though WandaVision is the first one, this is already like up there. It's already up there as like one of the pinnacle like properties of the MCU for me. Like, I still stand by that. I think WandaVision is one of the best written things in the MCU, and Falcon and Winter Soldier has jumped straight up there with WandaVision for me. Everything that they haven't shied away from what it's like to be a black superhero in general, a black person in this world, dude. Like, that is the point of this show, and it's so powerful. Like, every time Bucky asks Sam, like, why did you give up the shield? Why did you give up the shield? It's like, you don't get what it's like to be a black person in America. We are instantly seen as bad people sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into an elevator and everyone moves over to the opposite end of me like they're about to get robbed. I can't tell you how many times I've been walking on the street and people have either crossed the street, clutched their purse. It's ridiculous. Just because of the color of my skin, you have no idea who I am, dude. And I love that this show explores that. It's not like... And I love the comic. The Sam Wilson Captain America run is amazing, right? And it does go into a lot of deep stuff, much like Falcon and Winter Soldier does. But it's like, Sam doesn't just pick up the shield, oh, I'm Captain America now. I'm Captain America and Falcon now. There's a lot more to it. Will America accept me, right? Do I want to be the symbol of a country that hasn't made it the best place for people of color for years, for hundreds of years, right? So it's like, do I want to be that symbol? And I love that this show puts a lot of emphasis on that topic, bro. And I absolutely love it.
Oh, 1000%. And I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that, like, even even if you take the seriousness of what's going on and you put it in pop culture, even us, we have always had, like, a lot of people have always had an issue with some of the things that have been related in theaters. Like, I remember going to see Hunger Games, and people were mad because Rue was black. Like, people were actually mad because Rue was black. I remember when Star Wars, the new trilogy, was coming out, and they saw John Boyega holding a lifesaver. It was like, he better not be the next chosen one. This. We riot. And it's just, I love the fact that this show puts that weight, that, like, they give us that weight. Like, not only in the show, the realism of a black person being a superhero, a police officer, or a fireman, or, you know, a lawyer, or anything in this world. Like, it's hard enough for us to be in those spaces. This show also puts into perspective that, like, yeah, even for Anthony Mackie, like, I really feel like there is a weight. Like, yeah, if I'm Captain America, people are going to hate me just because, like, I don't look like Steve Rogers. I don't look like Chris Evans. So I love to show this, like, there's a few scenes that just hit on all those fronts of how important it is to have uncomfortable conversations like this. So I love the fact that this show dives into that. Like, Marvel really found a formula that they're able to take superheroes, like fictional characters, and give us real world weight that we deal with in everyday lives, and make it so relatable. So yeah, this show hits on so many levels.
Yeah, James and I speculated that this might be the direction that the show is going in, but I never would have assumed that they would have been brave enough to do it to this degree. And I'm so pleased with it. Like, episode 5 in particular, I think hit home some of those themes the hardest out of any of the other episodes. Even, like, James and I were talking a little bit about this earlier, but the conversation between Bucky and Sam when they're at his home in Louisiana, and they're just throwing the shield around, talking to one another, and Bucky apologizes to Sam because he acknowledges the fact that he and Steve had no possible way of understanding what type of pressure they were putting on him by handing him the shield. And I think that apology is deserved. You know, he should apologize to Sam for that, because it's an insane amount of pressure.
Yeah, like, that was so powerful to me. That was one of the many moments that made me tear up a little bit, if I'm being honest. Like, just watching that exchange between them, Bucky's just, like, realizing, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm a white guy. Like, I walk down the street and no one looks at me any differently, but to hand what is seen as the symbol of America to a black man, they never thought about it like that. And I love that Bucky apologized. I love that he acknowledged the privilege that he has in life, and then just actively being able to see it from a different perspective, seeing everything that Sam is going through, right? I don't want to get there too quickly, but Isaiah tells Sam, like, they'll never let a black man be Captain America. The symbol of America is supposed to be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man. Mm-hmm. That is the single image of America. It cannot be you, bro. And then when he says no self-respecting black man would want to take up that shield. Okay, shield. Since we're already on that topic, let's get into it, right? I'll give my thoughts on that real quick, because Chris asked me, how did I feel about that conversation personally, right? And I told Chris I saw that conversation 2 different ways. In one way, I agreed completely with Isaiah. Like I said before, America is not exactly this place where people of color in general are exactly welcomed, right? Like, we just had another black man murdered again. This shit just doesn't stop, bro. Why would I then want to be the symbol of a country where this is just okay, right? Yeah. But then on the other hand, much like Obama stepping up to be the first African-American president, someone has to stand up and break the mold. Someone has to stand up and say that enough is enough, even though it's easier to sit back and just say, like, nothing is ever going to change. And from Isaiah's standpoint, it's hard to see anything else. He did the exact same thing that Steve Rogers did in the 40s. When he saw that his comrades were imprisoned, he went against orders and went to save them. Cap was praised for it. Isaiah was put into prison and poked and prodded for 30 fucking years, bro. For 30 years. And then they erased him. They erased him for fear of his identity getting out about the super soldier serum, especially knowing what that serum is supposed to mean to America. It definitely couldn't have been a black person in the 50s. It definitely couldn't be the symbol. And it just shows how things haven't changed. So I have been of two minds of this. So Darren, I want to start with you. Like, how did you feel about that conversation between Isaiah and Sam?
It got to a point for me where I stopped hearing superhero names and things like that. Like, it just became a conversation between two black for me. Like, it got to a point where I was just like, if you would have showed me that scene anywhere else, I'm like, this is not a Marvel show. Like, this is not, like, I'm used to the cars, the explosions, and all that great stuff. The gravity of that conversation hit me so hard, especially when he was talking about, when he told him, he was just like, Sam was like, man, like, why not come out now? We could change things. Mm-hmm. And Isaiah told him, he's like, bro, like, the fact that you're here right now means things haven't changed. The fact that you're talking to me means things haven't changed. Like, them erasing 30 years, they've erased 500 years of things that have happened to us. He was like, you think you're any different because you're holding a white man's shield? When he said that, bro, like, the weight of it just hit. It's just like, yo, we don't care if this is Marvel or superheroes, or you're just, someone in the streets. Like, it's the same outcome. It's the same thought process. It's like, you think just because you have wings, you have superpowers, this, they're going to look at your skin any differently? There's not a superpower to make them look at you differently. Just a few episodes prior, when they got pulled over, and they looked at Sam first until like, oh crap, he's an Avenger. If it wasn't for that, who knows what that scene would have become. Right. So when they had that conversation and Isaiah had to break it down to him, like, yeah, like, I've done these things for my country only to come back and be hated. Like, and that hit me so hard because talking to my dad, my grandpa, or anyone that I grew up with and hearing different stories that they've gone through, like, it feels the same. And I love that we're having this conversation in a Marvel show, that we can still have quote unquote pop culture and entertainment and real conversations in that and walk out with something. Bucky knew the weight of what happened to Isaiah. That's why he didn't tell anyone about it. But Bucky was still ignorant to understanding truly what happened to him, what psychologically happened to him. And that's why he apologized to Sam. He's like, you know what? It's full circle now. I understand it. I get it. Shannon Sharp recently said that, like, yo, for you to be around Black people and not fully understand what they're going through, you don't have Black friends. You just know Black people. And there's a true difference between that. And Bucky kind of had that realization. It's just like, yeah, like, I know, like, I believe I know Sam, but it took all the way up to this point. Like, you know what? I get it. Like, I was selfish to say that, like, you gave up the shield, for your reasons without me fully understanding the gravity of why you did it. And you weren't fully able to tell me those things. You didn't know how to express yourself because I just came at you sideways the entire time. And Bucky's character has had so much growth living in Wakanda, him getting their resources, eating their food, giving him free mental and physical health care to get out of the confines of his mind. That's literally what Wakanda offered him. So to see the growth in Bucky, to truly understand what Black people go through in this country, like, when he says, I'm sorry, I truly appreciated that I'm sorry, because you understood the weight of what he did and what he brought to the table. But that conversation between Isaiah and Sam, for people that don't fully get it, go back and listen, truly listen to that conversation. Take out the Captain Americas, take out the Falcons, take out the Winter Soldiers, take out everything, and just listen to two Black men have that conversation. It hit on so many fronts. Damn, I love this show. Oh! Let's go.
Yeah, man. Like you brought it up, right? Back in episode 4, where Sam and Bucky were just having a conversation. Police pull up. All they see is a loud black dude. That's all they see. They don't see two people having a conversation. They see a loud black dude potentially harassing a white man. That's all they see.
Doesn't Bucky even have to say, like, don't you guys know who this is?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
it's absolutely ridiculous. Chris and I had a long conversation about a lot of stuff in this episode. And Chris, I want you to give your perspective on this entire scene because I loved our conversation earlier. So I want you to tell the viewers like how you viewed this scene between Sam and Isaiah.
Yeah, so I want to make clear that like this is a super powerful scene and I really enjoyed watching it. But there's no way that I can get the same power out of it that you guys can get, right? But just from listening to the conversation between Isaiah and Sam, I was telling James that Isaiah looks at the shield and all he can see is the atrocities that he's experienced over the course of his lifetime. How the United States government has absolutely failed him time and time and time and time again. So for him, the shield is evil. There's nothing good about that shield. It just represents how the U.S. government has failed an entire people. The difference, though, is that when Sam looks at the shield, and why you can see the heartbreak, I think, on Sam's face when Isaiah tells him that no self-respecting black man would ever take up that mantle, is because Sam has such an emotional attachment to the shield. When Sam looks at the shield, he doesn't think about all those atrocities. All he thinks about is a good man, a hero, and a friend. So he sees Steve Rogers when he looks at the shield. He doesn't see the United States of America. And that's why I think Sam himself, being so close to Steve Rogers and like sharing a similar disposition to Steve Rogers, even Zemo says that like he's as stubborn as Steve Rogers was in this episode. That's why I think Sam is the perfect Captain America. He's like the perfect person to pick up the shield because he himself doesn't have to be tied to the United States government, just like Steve was. You know, John Walker is like the bastardization of what Captain America is when under the thumb of the United States government. But Sam could be like Steve was as Nomad. You know, after the Winter Soldier, Steve has no affiliation with the United States government. And we haven't talked about this, but I really liked Julia Louis-Dreyfus's cameo because in that conversation with John Walker, she kind of sneakily says that the shield doesn't really belong to the United States government, which further implies that he could absolutely become the next Captain America and not have to answer to them whatsoever. So he can like truly embody the same things that Steve embodied when he was holding the shield, which is, you know, goodness, being a hero, and just being a good man in general, which is what, to me, Captain America is supposed to represent, not what Isaiah Bradley sees it as or what John Walker sees it as. But I think this episode was hugely impactful in pushing Sam in that direction and making him become like truly what Captain America is supposed to represent. Like I told James, yeah, America's in the moniker, but he doesn't have to be affiliated with the nation or with the government. It's just the moniker, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know now. The moment Sam puts on that suit,
I'm excited, dude.
Puts on this, I will cry.
I think so, dude. Know. I think
I will cry, and it's not just because like, so you know, in Endgame, spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen Endgame, but when he gets the shield at the end of Endgame, you're just like, yeah, you know, that's a proud moment. But like, there wasn't too much weight behind it because most of us are just like, oh, you know, it happens in the comic books. That's the answer to everything. It happens in the comic books. And some people just don't respect Sam's character in general all throughout, like most of the films. They're just like, oh, Falcon's a throwaway, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, like a lot of people have thought that or whatever. This show, for one, I don't think he needed a lot of like the hype for this show. But this show definitely gives him that legitimacy. I believe he already had it beforehand, but this show definitely gives him that. So now when he finally really picks up the shield, like you're going to feel that weight. Like at the end of Endgame, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. Like that movie was amazing and what they did. But the way he's going to pick up the shield this time, knowing the struggles of not only being Captain America, but the main struggles of being not only a Black Captain America, but the struggles of being Black in general. Just being Black. Like, yo, he literally could have said, I fought Thanos when the cops pulled him over. Like, do you know who I am? Like, that doesn't even help you. So this time when he picks up the shield, like, anyone that hasn't watched the show that's like, I don't agree with this, I will fight him. Look, Sam's got my back. Like, I love the fact that Sam had to go on this mental and spiritual journey to kind of figure out, like, not only what the shield means to the country and the world, what the shield means to him, but how he can take that shield and hold truth to a lot of the things that he believes it represents while still changing a lot of things in culture. This show. So yeah.
I was telling James earlier that I think this episode in particular is some of Anthony Mackie's strongest work in the entirety of the MCU.
Yes.
Like, by the end of the episode, you can even see kind of a shift in his posture. Like, he is Captain America now, despite wearing the costume or holding the shield or whatever. Like, by the end of this episode, he believes he's Captain America, and that's what's most important. And at the beginning of the show, he did a great job of like having to mull over what the shield means for all these people. But now that we're here at the penultimate episode, you can see that he's like actively changing the way he stands to be the embodiment of what the shield is supposed to represent at its best, not at its worst, you know?
Exactly. Something that really resonated with me was I can't remember his name right now, but the flag smasher that was talking to Carly at the graveyard, right? Where he was talking about being a Captain America fanboy, and in this day and age, like, the people need someone like them, and that's Carly. That's also Sam Wilson. Yeah. Because he is he's just a human being. He's just a good man, right? And at the end of Endgame, like, I saw that movie so many times, and it wasn't until the second time when Steve tells Sam right before he leaves, "You're a good man, Sam." It wasn't until the second time I was like, yes, bro. Much like That's Dr. Excellent. Erskine, it doesn't matter about you being the perfect soldier. It's about you being a good man. And that's why I'm giving you the shield. You are a good man.
And that's why John Walker fails. Because he desperately wants to be a good man. He wants nothing more than to be a good man. But he's been, a soldier his entire life. And despite wanting to be a good man, he never can come out on top. He can never make it happen. He always makes the wrong choice.
Yeah. And I think this show, and that's another thing this show brings, the weight and the gravity of being an Avenger and being like making those decisions in the heat of moment. And John Walker obviously didn't have that. I love the fact that this show does kind of make you understand also like how good of a character Chris Evans, Steve Rogers was. And a lot of decisions, that he made. So this show definitely puts in light something that I've wanted Marvel to do for a long time, which is just give their characters weight, like give their characters substance, and make it real. So now I am excited to see what a Miss Marvel will do, or what a Riri Williams series will do. Armor Wars. I'm excited to see like what they bring to this character, what they bring to these characters of color, and just minorities, and just different. It just comes from all walks of life, because Marvel understands now the importance of this. They didn't. There was a time where Marvel did not get it. Yeah. So I love the fact that, you know what, they're listening and they're kind of somewhat making up for that now, with putting a lot of these different situations that a lot of us go through in our everyday lives. Just because we're not out, beating up aliens or, trying to save the world from X, Y, and Z. Yeah, me as a person that works in retail deals with the same thing as someone else that's a doctor, or someone else that's a professional dog walker. I don't care. Like, if you're a person of color, like, there are certain things you deal with that other people just don't. And this show shined a much needed spotlight on a dark area in our country. So yeah, this show, all right, now it's solidified. I think I do like the show better than WandaVision. But yeah, this show definitely hits on a lot of points that just needed to be discussed. And I'm just glad it was discussed in this manner to where anyone can watch it, whether if it's a 5-year-old or someone that's 100 years old and everyone in between, and they can get behind the message in a way that makes it easy for you to digest. Sometimes it's not easy to digest, but this show makes it easier for you to digest that message.
Definitely. Yeah. So on the topic of John Walker, right? So let's jump back to the beginning real quick. We get that really, really fun fight sequence between Sam, Bucky, and John Walker, watching Sam and Bucky use the shield together against John Walker. That warmed my heart. I love that. Them unfortunately having to break his arm to literally rip the shield away from him, which is what Sam didn't want to do. Like, they had that conversation, like, we can't just jump him and take the shield. Yeah, we kind of have to.
Yeah, we can.
You know what I mean? And
dude, the first time I watched the episode, I didn't even realize they broke his arm. It was the second viewing where with his scream, I was like, oh, that's right, he's in a sling in the next scene. Damn, they fucking broke his arm.
Dislocated something. I heard the pop.
Yeah, there was a pop.
Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, yeah. But I love, my favorite part of that scene, honestly, was the very beginning where John Walker was like, you don't want to do this. And then Bucky looks down, looks up, and he's like, yeah, we do. Like that. When I tell you, I rewind that one scene like 8 times when he's just like, you don't want to do this. And he's just like, yeah, we do. Because you just
Bucky
understand the weight. Yes.
He's brought up stealing the shield multiple times over the course of the show. So I'm glad he's the one to deliver that line, because he's been like itching to get the shield back from John Walker.
Because he understands it now. Like it comes back full circle. He understood one side of it where it was just like what that shield meant to his best friend.
Right.
What that shield meant, because he was raised with Steve Rogers. And he understood what that meant, but he completely like just didn't understand the other side of why Sam did what he did. So I think when he says that, yeah, we do, he truly means like, not just for me, not just for Steve, not just for Sam, but also like I understand the weight of him being a black man. Like I understand the weight of X, Y, and Z. So when it's just that part when he says, yeah, we do, like he gets it now, even though he lived in Wakanda. He should have
for 2 years
understood more then. Yes. Like when he says, yeah, we do, he finally understands that like, yeah, like I need to take this shield back for everything that it should represent. So yeah.
That's it, right? What the shield should represent. Like that's the point. It's not what it does represent with how America sees it. Sam has to be the one to break the mold. He has to be the one to keep fighting and to make actual change, at least be a part of that fight and do his part, right? But on the topic of John Walker, this episode made me really empathize with him, and I hate it. Right? Like,
I know.
Every single scene he was in, I'm like, shit, well, I kind of feel really bad for him in
dude,
terms
Wyatt
of certain
Russell's
things.
Killing it.
Yeah, his
like,
acting is amazing in this.
Despite the fact that we hate John Walker as a character, there are levels to his performance that he's delivering an excellent performance. And you do feel bad for him. I felt bad for him too. And I too was like, God, I really don't like saying that. But like, the government turned him into what he is and then completely abandoned him the first chance that they got.
Right.
And you know what? I obviously am not a soldier, but like I think that actually happens to a lot of people. You know, they're molded by the military, and then when they go back to civilian life, some of them end up becoming homeless. You know, like, and they're just not taken care of the way that they should be taken care of, and that's terrible, man. You feel bad for him.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. Like, this is the other thing. If it wasn't on camera and he killed all of them, the government wouldn't care. They would give him a medal. He would have another Medal of Honor. If he murdered all of them and it wasn't on camera, the headlines would just read, Captain America saves everyone from the terrorist organization, the Flag Smashers. But because it was on camera, it now has become a PR nightmare, and this is what they have to do. And then the thing is, they just let him out on the streets. Yes, they don't know that he has the super soldier serum in him, but the fact that, like, there's a part of me that wanted him to get arrested, and then there's another part of me that's like, well, that's not really fair to him because this is what you sent him to do. Yeah. Right? He did only what you wanted him to do, what you trained him to do, and simply because it became a PR mess, now you don't want anything to do with him. He's been stripped of his rank. He's been stripped of any titles, any benefits. He has nothing. Everything he's fought for. He's lost friends. He's put his life on the line. Lamar's dead. His best friend. I know. The one person that believed that he was a good man. He's all dead. I love that scene in the beginning where he's just saying, why didn't I listen? Because Lamar didn't want him to go into that room. Lamar wanted to just let Sam talk to Carly, and maybe it wouldn't have ended up that way. He blames himself for not listening, and he's just a human being. He's someone that wants to do good, but he's a fuck up, right? But that doesn't mean that the government should just shun these people. Now you've created a villain against America. You've created this. Darren, how do you feel?
I'm right there with you. I really feel like I hate the fact they made me care for him in this episode. I was like, I just want to hate him.
He murdered a man, and we feel bad for him.
But like for me, like when he said just that one line, like, you built me, like you made me this. And you notice throughout the show when he has to make his own decisions, like no orders are given, decisions like that he has made for himself. Yeah, he messes up almost every single time. He sees the super soldier serum, like no one tells him or orders him to do anything with it. He's like, oh man, I think I'm gonna take it or whatever. People try to tell him, like, Lamar tried to tell him, don't go in the room. Give Sam his time. Goes into the room. He messes up. And then when he had to run in with the baddest women on the planet in the last episode, and
the Dora gave him the work, bro.
And they want to talk about jurisdiction.
He like the moment where he's like, they weren't even super soldiers. He sounds like a fucking toddler.
Like, they weren't even super soldiers.
So whiny.
He learned on so many fronts that, like, yo, being an Avenger or being in his life or whatever, like being an Avenger is a thug life. Like, you got to be ready to deal with essentially whatever when it's thrown at you. And when he had to make decisions on his own, he essentially didn't know what to do. So I believe when he says that line, like, you built me, you made me this or whatnot. And he talked about like the medals that they got. And he was like, well, they don't know what are behind those medals. Mm-hmm. Like the things that were made, the decisions that gone into receiving those medals. He folded.
He says something like, they gave me a medal so I would never forget the hardest day of my life.
Yeah, something. Yeah, exactly. And I do believe like that scene at the podium when he was like, no, listen to me. Allow me to talk. Allow me to tell my side. And they didn't allow him to do that. I felt for him in that moment. He thought he was kind of doing what was right. And then when Lamar told him, like, no, the serum probably makes you more of what you are. He thought he was a good person, only to find out he's not. And he found out at the worst time he's not a good man. He's not a good person. So
even Lamar thought he was a good person. You know, they grew up together in the military.
Yeah, to the very end. So yeah, I like the dynamic of his character in this episode. It definitely added a lot of weight that was needed. I liked it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And then the next scene, we see Sam, and he's talking to Torres about everything that's going on. We find out that the government has taken over jurisdiction of everything, and he leaves Torres with the wings, which is very, very interesting because Torres becomes the Falcon in the comics when Sam Wilson becomes Captain America. So it's like Torres is going to fix the wings and potentially become Falcon later on in the MCU, or a version of that. That's amazing.
Right?
Dude, when Sam turned to the camera and like he's almost looking down the barrel of the camera basically, and he's like, you keep him. I got huge Rhodey vibes in Iron Man 1 where he looks at the War Machine armor or the second armor and he's like, next time, baby. Like it's just a huge Easter egg to the comic book fans. And it's so silly. It really is almost this like trope that's been happening where like characters will stare at the screen or at the camera and just like announce themselves as what their comic book name is. But I love it. It's so much fun. You keep them.
And you could tell like throughout, I think it was more of episode 1 and 2 when he was kind of making some plays on like, flying or being Falcon. You could kind of tell like, he had an interest in, he already has an interest in the technology. So when he had the wings and he told me, it was like, you keep them. I was just like, Marvel just knows how to give you those passing of the torch superhero moments, like so indirectly, it's ridiculous. But you feel like it spoke to your spirit in the comic book realm. You're just like, oh, I felt that moment. But
that hits me in my nerd soul.
Yeah.
Right? But to anyone else, it's just a moment.
That took me back to Winter Soldier. That took me back to Winter Soldier, where Sitwell name drops Stephen Strange. I was like, hold up,
Wait,
Stephen Strange, what?
I know I'm going to theater, but can you roll that back?
He said the thing.
It's like that was something you hear in like a post-credit scene,
right?
And then it turns to him, and it just gives him a look like, oh, and he just becomes a Falcon. But whatever, I enjoyed that little 2-second moment.
It was great, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. And then during that conversation, Bucky kind of just walks off, and he's going after Zemo. I did not think he would find Zemo that quickly. I thought that would be like in episode 6. I figured we would get some Zemo closure then, but that only tells me that we have way too much shit to do in the final episode, that we need to wrap stuff up with Zemo right now. And Zemo is such an interesting character, and Daniel Bruhl plays him so great. Like, I just love that he's constantly pushing Bucky's buttons to see what he would do, because Zemo's entire motive is to get rid of the serum, to get rid of all super soldiers, and Bucky's a part of that. But even in his limited time being with Bucky, he sees that Bucky has the values of a good man, which is why he says, I've decided not to kill you. What that really means is that he sees Bucky as a good person, and he doesn't have to worry about what Bucky's going to do having all of that power. And I love when Bucky raises the gun, and pretty much Zemo is accepting the death that he think he's going to get, and Bucky's like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. I am not that murdering machine that I used to be when I was programmed by Hydra. I loved that moment. And then just turning him over to the Dora. So Darren, like, how did you feel about that moment? Like, how was it like impactful for you?
For me, it took me right back to the Civil War moment, where T'Challa says, like, the living aren't done with you yet. And I'm telling you, I thought Bucky was going to say, like, the living are still not done with you. I thought he was going to give us that line. I really thought it was going to happen. But when I tell you that moment where he takes and he drops all the bullets, and he tells him, he's just like, look, I'm not going to, he's like, I'm officially like closing the chapter on my book where I am controlled. And like, I'm not killing people, like, just to cross them off a list. I do love the fact he said, hey, I crossed my name off of your list. I do like that.
Name off.
Yeah.
I also love that the book is red too. Like, it's right? it's such a good like Easter egg to the red book that used to control him, and now this red book is the key to his freedom, bro. Oh my god.
So I love that moment where he doesn't shoot him, he drops the bullets, and then Dora Milaje in the most humbling way, because it was like, yo, I want to execute you for killing the king. That shows you the beautiful power of my people, because they literally said, like, he's gonna go to the raft to live out the rest of his days. Like, they earned every right to literally execute this man, and they don't. They literally say, like, long as this man is held somewhere where he can no longer have the chance to do this to somebody else, that is good enough for us. So that speaks within itself. But that scene, that moment, it took me back to Civil War. It's like he can't find death because the living aren't done with him yet. So, yeah, when T'Challa delivered that line, it stood true then, and it stood true in this scene too.
Yeah.
Prior to the Dora Milaje saying that they're going to take Zemo to the raft, I love the way that the scene's edited, because it's almost like Bucky pulling the trigger is him sending the Dora Milaje after Zemo. Like, he's not going to hit him with bullets. He's going to hit him with something way worse, which is handing him over to Wakanda. But I love the fact that they're taking him to the raft, because that sets his character up perfectly to fall right into the hands of Thunderbolt Ross.
Yep.
Like in the comics, Zemo is one of the leaders of the Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm.
So like the pieces are all falling into place. We're absolutely getting something Thunderbolts related, whether it's
Definitely.
a show or a movie.
Give us a show.
Yeah,
a show.
I think they'll do a show for sure. But the
yeah.
thing is like, how will Zemo work with Ross, knowing that Ross has been experimenting with different forms of the serum for years? Will he try to destroy everything that Ross has? Like, how is that going to work? Right? That's what I'm curious about.
Maybe like a double cross at some point. I mean, we're writing scripts for things that haven't even been announced.
Yeah, right.
Facts.
Like he could work under Ross in the Thunderbolts and then like double cross him and destroy Super Soldier Serum or something. I don't know. We'll see.
It's
we'll
in
see
the works.
Happens.
Marvel has stuff probably planned out to like 2057 at this point, as far as
it's all in
like,
Kevin Feige's head.
Yeah,
man.
TV shows
The
and
dude's a
movies go.
genius.
So 100%. It's almost as if Marvel knew a pandemic was coming, because most of the TV shows and Disney Plus were announced or already out before the pandemic started. So it's almost as if they knew we were about to enter this time. So they are in a great space right now where a bunch of these TV shows can do waves and they can flush out so much out of these TV shows. What this show has given us, WandaVision was special. I will never take anything away from WandaVision. But what this show gave us, or is currently giving us, is something that hits home to me in so many ways. And I love the fact we're not picking out fight scenes or explosions. Most of the things we're picking out are conversations.
Yeah, character moments.
Character moments. Most of the things we're talking about are character moments. Like WandaVision was 3/4 dialogue.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was 3/4 dialogue and it worked to the finale. And even the finale, the best scene to me in the finale was the dialogue between the two visions.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
The thought experiment about the ship of Theseus. Yeah.
So I love the fact we're talking about like, oh, this is my favorite quote, or this is my favorite moment. It's not a punch. It's not, bullets flying. It's actually when he didn't shoot this person, or we're talking about this. I love the fact that these shows are giving us real moments with characters that can hit home for us. So yeah.
Yeah, just to keep going on that, and I want to touch on something Pedro brought up in chat real quick, but the fact that like we're talking about all of these amazing dialogue moments, everything going on between Sam and Sarah and the boat. But before we get, that's going to be the next thing that we talk about. But I want to answer Pedro's question real quick. How do we feel about Madam Hydra? I am now starting to think that she is the power broker.
It's very possible.
I am now starting to think that. Like, a lot of people are doubling down that Sharon is the power broker because of, I mean, she gets Batroc out of prison. Mm-hmm. She sets him up to go after the GRC. But I feel like that's low-hanging fruit, bro. Like, she's been working in the underground. She has to be working in the gray area. There are certain things that she has to do. And even though Batroc's whole thing is to kill Sam, she knows in her mind that Batroc does not possess the ability to kill Sam Wilson, so it doesn't even matter.
Right.
He is a means to an end, and then he'll end up back in prison as soon as she gets what she wants. So I think that Madam Hydra could potentially be the power broker. The fact that she is all-knowing. We already saw that sign on, like, the side of this building where the power broker is always watching. How does she know that John Walker took the serum? How does she know all of these different things? Because the power broker is always watching. What do you guys think?
Dude, I want her to be the power broker. That would be awesome. Because even that short scene with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like, what a fun performance. Like, I was so excited to see her in the show. And to your point about Sharon possibly being the power broker, I don't think it makes sense anymore. Because if she sent Batroc to the Flag Smashers, the power broker has been hunting the Flag Smashers the entire show. So if she already knew where they were, that wouldn't make any sense. That would go against what the show's been telling us the whole time. So I think it's more likely that Val is the power broker than Sharon. But I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Variety published an article saying that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was actually supposed to appear in Black Widow. And we know that Black Widow was originally supposed to come out prior to this show. It was supposed to be Black Widow and then the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I definitely think they're building her character to be something larger in the greater MCU. But I don't know if we're still going to see her in Black Widow when it comes out. Maybe they've made some like edits or something to remove her, considering that this show came out first. But originally that was supposed to be the plan. So
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
I think she's going to be something bigger in this universe.
Yeah. And I think it's funny that, like, because we know when Marvel pushes dates back on a lot of these things, because essentially they have to come out in some certain type of order for post-credit scenes or for just keep continuation with like some stories. But that's interesting that you say that. That's a good way to kind of tie it back in. Like, we already knew WandaVision was going to go into Doctor Strange. Right. So to say, for that to be said, like, that would make sense of how to tie this into maybe Black Widow, into maybe future events, wherever the case may be. I just love the part where she sat down and she handed the card.
There's nothing on it.
Even looking. But without even looking, like, just handed the card and kept the conversation going smooth. Also, I noticed like she had a stream of purple hair also, which kind of made me think of Agnes in a sense.
Yeah.
Hey, I was just like, oh, we're going there? Mephisto. That's Mephisto.
Mephisto confirmed. Yo,
that's Mephisto, right there.
You heard it here first.
Now that you've brought this up, Darren, we've been known to speculate wildly about characters appearing in these shows. James, I hate to say it, but I think the Zola train is over. I think there's no possible way Zola's coming into the show.
So on the last show, we were also speculating that Zola could potentially be the power broker as well. Like, how would this person have Carly's number? How would this person be able to find Carly and the Flag Smashers no matter where they go? Because they're constantly connected to a network, Zola. But I'm now leaning more towards Allegra. So we'll see.
I'm still saying it's Mephisto. I'm going with that answer. So I'm blue in the face.
Mephisto's going to be in every show.
My one actual, because I was having this conversation with some people on Clubhouse. They were just like, all right, going into the show, we all had like fan theories. What is your one big fan theory going into the show? Like, I looked up nothing about it. I'm doing that for Low Key. I'm doing that for all the other shows. So it might have been out there beforehand, but I said my number one want, I was like, I want Wakanda to be in this show in some way, shape, or form. I was like, this was the man. Yeah. I was like, this was the man that took their king, that literally brought that to the forefront. That brought T'Challa into the forefront, or Black Panther, I should say. So yeah, I wanted Wakanda to be in the show, and that, like, I got my wish, gang. But I don't have any other real big fan theories for this one. Low key, I got 1,000. But this one was kind of straightforward compared to...
It's a more grounded show.
Yeah. This was more straightforward compared to WandaVision and potentially what Loki can give us, which I feel like every 30 minutes that's going to blow our minds. But I didn't really have too many big fan theories for this one.
Loki has something that no other MCU property has. A clean slate with no expectations. Since from the moment that the events of the first Avengers movie ends, everything is up in the air. Because we are now living in a completely different timeline. Everything can be different. They can do literally whatever they want with this show. They don't have to worry about continuity. They don't have to worry about it connecting to anything else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's going to be awesome.
And I think this is a great time for them to probably, if not rewrite, but kind of like retcon some things and just like, maybe clean up some areas of the timeline that, fans may not have agreed with. Pretty much they can have like Days of Future Past moments throughout this film. So I'm excited for Loki and the time traveling show that this is about to be.
Yeah, it's going to be dope. All right, so let's get into the moments between Sam and Sarah. Like, Sarah is slowly becoming like one of my favorite characters because she grounds Sam. Like, she's her own strong, confident, independent woman, but she still also looks to her brother as well, right? So I love their relationship, and she just has this like really jaded outlook on life because things, again, haven't been exactly great for people of color in America, right? And she's trying to deal with everything with the family business and trying to raise her kids and doing all of these different things. So I love every moment that we have with them together, and Sam just realizing that I need to take a step back there's nothing I can do now that the government has taken jurisdiction right now until I get more information. I need to go help my family. And just slowing it down just a little bit more, having Sam spend that time with his nephews, with his sister, trying to fix up the boat, calling in those favors from everyone that their parents have helped to try to fix up the boat so that they can sell it, and then deciding not to sell it. Bucky being on the boat, helping them.
I love
Sam
that.
and Bucky starting to actually feel like friends. Like, that was like one of my favorite moments of the entire episode. What did you guys think about that?
I loved it. These are the quieter moments that I really like that this show is delivering. You know, because it's long form storytelling, we get to spend way more time with these characters and flesh them out more as people. And just watching Sam and Bucky chill, fixing up a boat, drinking some brews, like becoming closer as people. I love every single second of it. Bucky flirting with Sarah is hilarious. But I just love that the show gives them these longer moments to connect with one another.
Same.
And I don't want to push us too far out of this boat scene. I want to talk about the scene again between Bucky and Sam kind of counseling Bucky in a way. But we'll stick to the boat scene for now.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
There.
I love
the
fixing up the boat montage.
Yeah, we'll get there because that sequence between Sam and Bucky towards the end of the episode is actually my favorite moment of all of the 5 episodes so far. So we'll definitely get there. But just them fixing up the family boat, like, Darren, how did that work for you? Like, watching the community come together to try to do something.
Well, it holds a special place to my heart. I'm from Louisiana, so just to see how they because that's real. Southern hospitality is a real thing, and it's just like, if you did something for a neighbor or someone up the street 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever the case may be, if your name holds up in that neighborhood or that community, they'll be there for you. And when they'll come over, they'll tell you, like, oh man, I knew your dad from this, and this. Here's 10 billion plates of food, or here's the help and the labor that you need. So that is a true thing to its core, that us Louisianians, if it's a tight-knit community, and like they're there for one another, where multiple generations were raised in the neighborhood, they'll be there for each other. And they'll always swap stories about, different nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, or coworkers, whatever the case may be. So for me, that scene kind of hit home. I felt like, figuratively and literally, it hit home, because I felt like I was home watching that scene. I'm totally here for Sarah and Bucky. I
want it.
I'm totally here for it.
Right? Like, Spicy brought that up on Twitter, and I was thinking in my mind, like, Bucky spent so much time with so many baddies in Wakanda. Of course he has a taste for spice, bro. As soon as he saw Sarah, he started smiling. Hi, I'm Bucky.
Hey.
Dude, I thought there may have been something going on between him and Io, but maybe it's more platonic.
Yeah, I think it's more platonic.
Yeah, that was definitely a business arrangement. But I do love.
They do seem close, though. She does call him James.
Yes.
At one point. So.
Yeah, I'm totally here for it. But that boat scene, it was good because, again, I like when shows can kind of break away from the Marvel content, or just shows in general can break away from whatever their traditional content is, and just kind of give you those loving, wholesome moments just between family. Our friends, or whatever the case may be. And that scene definitely kind of took you out of the whole, like, they just fought Thanos, they just came back from the blip, or, they just fought Hydra. Like, you just took some people that sat both sides drinking some beers and just having a good time. So I vibe with that scene a lot.
It's almost like the farmhouse scene in Age of Ultron. I think it's better than the farmhouse scene. But or even like the party scene at the beginning of Age of Ultron, just these moments where we get to see our heroes being normal people. Yeah, that's what Marvel. That's always been Marvel's strength. We've talked about it before. Like, Marvel is about your average Joe gaining superpowers and doing something positive with it. So the fact that they take the time to do this in these shows, it really just harkens back to like what the company's always kind of been about.
Yeah, I love the
Totally agree.
scene where Sam is just running around training. Actually, no, it's actually the scene where Bucky's sleeping on the couch and he wakes up and Sam's nephews are playing with the shield. It's like, dude, this is so important. It's so simple, but it's so important because I don't know how to say this, but it just feels like in a different time, like it just wouldn't be acceptable for them to even touch that shield. And
Hell no.
even right now, in if you ask the wrong person, it still wouldn't be acceptable for them to touch the shield. But in a way, it kind of opens Bucky's mind, like the point of the shield is to be a symbol of hope for people in general. And look at these little kids seeing this shield as hope because their Uncle Sam is the one wielding it. It's so powerful, bro.
There's that scene where his nephew's like tracing the star on the shield.
Oh
It's
my
super,
god.
super awesome.
And you never thought, like, you think in this day and age in 2021, like, I mean, if you look at the American flag, like there are right now 17 different meanings for all people. I mean, people around the world of what that flag represents. But that small, like 2 second scene to see him kind of tracing the star on it, like that matters because like sometimes growing up in the neighborhoods or the areas that like they grew up in, because I have friends that grew up in similar situations or whatnot, they have to put hope in something. They have to put belief in something when there's not a lot around you. So for them to say that, like, yo, my uncle is like Captain America, and he's holding those truths, and he's upholding it, and like that moment was real. It mattered for me.
Yeah, I also love that sequence with Sam and Sarah just talking next to the boat where she tells him she doesn't want to sell the boat. It means too much to the legacy. And then she's just like, are you really going to sit there and let what Isaiah said influence you? Like, are you just going to let that happen? Like, you have a duty. I've never seen you run away. You've only run towards the danger. You've only run towards helping people. And that's what you need to continue doing. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to continue to fight for what's right. And that's the important part about being Captain America. And then watching that training montage of him throwing the shield around, flipping around in different ways, trying to figure it out, like, that was another moment that made me tear up a little bit, man, because this is something that I only thought I would see in a comic book, right? I never thought I would see this live action, watching Sam Wilson, Captain America, throwing around the shield because it is his. He is training with his shield. He is the symbol, bro. That was so powerful for me. And like you said, Chris, watching his nephews trace the star, bro. Like I was tearing up the entire time. It's such a powerful and important moment of this series as well as the episode.
I completely agree. I'm excited to see Anthony Mackie play Captain America in movies.
Yeah, dude.
Because I don't think everybody's watching the Marvel shows, but it's like absolutely going to be real once we see him in like an Avengers movie as Captain America. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I think we got to get to a point where sometimes this happened with Black Panther, where it's like everyone went to see Black Panther, but no one knew kind of like the story going into it beforehand with Civil War or whatnot. While that one doesn't hold as like that shift from Civil War to Black Panther is not going to be at the same level as what it's going to be with like Sam moving into whatever the film is, because the weight is there because we grew with Sam in this TV show.
Right.
I would recommend anyone before seeing any new Captain America film, watch this show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Watch this show. We let it slide when y'all didn't see Civil War and you went directly to Black Panther. We let that go. But this one, you cannot do that. Like, there are going to be people out there now and everyone's going to see it. We're just like, I don't want a Black Captain America. I don't want this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, I need you to watch this show because they talked about you. They definitely talked about you in this show. So I before any new movie comes out with them, I will say, hey, educate yourself, because I can say that about this show. Educate yourself and watch this show beforehand.
Dude, I'm excited to see Sam as Captain America because unlike Steve, he's just a man. You know, so I feel like that makes him even more inspirational because he doesn't have superpowers. I didn't mention this earlier when we were talking about the fight at the beginning of the episode, but in that fight, when he's facing off against Walker, there's real tension because John Walker has the super soldier serum inside of him. But I love how you can see that Sam, even being a man, is still very capable of holding his own against the super soldier. He utilizes the tools that he has at his disposal, like the wings and the jetpack and you know, the combat training that he's gotten as a soldier. But there are more stakes than, say, watching Steve Rogers fight somebody.
Right.
Like when Steve Rogers is holding off Thanos in Infinity War at the tail end of that flick, like, yeah, there are stakes, but you're also like, he's not Superman, but he's almost Superman. You know, like he's the peak physical condition that a human can be in. Like he can run as fast as an animal, you know, and Bucky can do the same thing. But when it comes to Sam Wilson, he's just a man, and I think that's even more inspirational. Like I said,
yeah, man, that's what Captain America is supposed to be, right?
Right.
In my mind, when Sam goes to talk to Carly and he just tries to talk to her because he sees her as a person and not just a villain or a criminal, that's important. And let's just dive into it. We'll talk about my favorite scene, like I said, of the entire series was just Sam talking to Bucky and trying to help him work through his trauma, bro. He tells him, like, you've been going around telling people sorry, trying to make yourself feel better when you have the tools to give people closure and make them feel better. That's how you atone. You haven't been atoning, you've been avenging. I love that entire conversation because ever since Winter Soldier, we have seen that Sam has been a grief counselor for soldiers. Right? And this is exactly what Bucky needs. Bucky needs a friend, Bucky needs family, and he needs someone to talk to him and give him the real stuff. Like Sam told him, like, you ready for some tough love? And just told him what it is, man. Told him exactly what he needs to do, and that immediately goes back to the older Asian guy and his son. That one person that you can make all of the difference for. You can give them closure by just telling him. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for you to do it, but it will bring him closure to find out what he did to his son, right? And that's what Captain America should be. He should be a symbol of hope and inspiration. And that's when Bucky catches the shield, they're throwing it around, he hands it to Sam. It's like, that is the acceptance of Bucky truly seeing what Steve saw in him. And if Steve was right about Sam, then he's definitely right about Bucky. And then he's finally smiling and he feels like he can actually move forward with his life instead of feeling stuck as the Winter Soldier, bro. This is such a powerful moment. Like, Darren, how did you feel about that sequence?
I loved it. And I love the fact that, like, while in that, like, you know, they're throwing his shield around, they're having this conversation. I love the part where he told him, he was just like, yeah, you need to what you were saying, like, where he, you know, you need to make amends. You need to stop avenging and start atoning for some of these things. It's like, yeah, there's probably like, you know, 20 people I could do this for. And Sam just tells him, just one. Just start with one. You know, and then the healing for all parties involved can really begin. And that was so powerful to, like, finally hear that. Because both of them have had the noise of, you know, the shield, the noise of, like, the villains in the world, whatever the case may be. In the midst of all the chaos, they found a pocket where they can finally, like, see eye to eye, not as superheroes, but just as men. And that's hard to do, even in our society. We're told so many things of what we need to be. And for them to be able to just come together and just, you know, talk about, like, yo, the stress and the weight of just being a man and some of the things that you did, like, it sucked. And a lot of it wasn't even of your own accord. And someone said something earlier. I watched this a while ago that Bucky since Civil War hasn't talked to Tony Stark. Has never had a conversation with him past that.
I guess so.
And I had to think,
yeah.
And I thought about that. I was like, damn.
And now it's too late.
And now, now it's too late. So it's like you have the weight of moments like that where they have not had a follow-up conversation. And there's so many things that just go into like his cycle, like his being. I just think that conversation had so much weight to it that made it so much easier for us to truly understand like what's going on in Bucky's mind and how to atone for that. And there's some areas in my life where I'm just like, damn, maybe I do need to call that person. Or maybe
Right?
I do need to text. Yeah, maybe I do need to text this person. Because that just tells us like even in death or even in situations that like either we're in or out of our control, there's ways that we can move past it. There's ways that we can get closure. That closure doesn't always have to be tangible. It doesn't always have to be sometimes a physical conversation. Sometimes there are different ways that we can move past it. And that conversation kind of shed a lot of light on that like, hey, there's ways to show forgiveness without the conventional means of just quote unquote saying I'm sorry and believing things are going to let bygones be bygones. Forgiveness doesn't always mean that you go back to the way things were. Forgiveness means you choose to be merciful and not let that resentment rob you from whatever purpose that you have in your life. And this moment like truly showcased that in the highest degree in a show. And again, this was one of those scenes where I took out the superhero pieces and I just looked at two men having a conversation.
Preach, bro.
Yeah, and they got to throw the shield around a little bit, which was really cool.
Awesome. It was awesome.
They're just playing catch with each other.
Yeah, right.
They have a really deep conversation.
Facts. And to correct both of you, at the end of this conversation, they said it was like, are we friends? Nah, we're partners. Nah, we're coworkers.
Right.
Nah, we're just people that, you know.
I love that breakdown. They're like, we're just two people with a mutual friend,
agreement.
but now that mutual friend's gone, so we're just people.
Yeah, I love that. But yeah, this scene definitely broke that down in a way that like that hits home. So yeah, it was in Louisiana. Shout out to my people. But yeah, I loved it. I loved
Chris?
This was also my favorite scene in the whole episode, and it mostly because it's such a stark contrast from the advice that Bucky's getting in the first episode of the show from the other therapist. You know, she's given him a mantra to go out and spout to all these people that, you know, he's wronged in his booklet, in his list, but it's meaningless, you know, because like Darren said, just saying sorry isn't enough. Like Sam says in the show, you have to be of service to them to find full closure. You know, it's about making them feel better, not about making yourself feel better by saying like an empty sorry, you know, that's not going to change anything within him. But I really do like how this conversation brings them closer together as friends, because, you know, Sam wasn't brainwashed by Hydra and sent out to kill a ton of people, but he is a soldier. So he can relate to what Bucky has gone through in his life. Prior to becoming the Winter Soldier, Bucky was just a regular soldier fighting in World War II. So like they can relate to one another on that level. And I love that Sam has the skill set to, in the most Socratic way, help people discover their own answers. And he's done it multiple times over the course of the show. You know, when he was talking to Carly earlier in the show, he's just asking questions. He's not saying any definitive statements. He's letting these people come to their own conclusions. And that's most of the time the most effective way to help people grow. People have to come to their own conclusions to truly change. You can't tell people what to do. So sometimes the Socratic method is the most useful. But I love that at the end of the conversation, Bucky's like, good talk. Like he really did gain something from it.
Yeah. I love that, man. Like, another thing that I wanted to talk about is Carly's unraveling, right? Like you can see her comrades like, oh, so we're working with criminals now? Mm-hmm. And it's like she's starting to really lean into, it's like, well, the country sees us as criminals, so let's just lean into it. We've already come too far, right? And then there's this moment inside the GRC meeting where someone turns to someone else and says, one world, one people. Right. And I probably, exactly. I was like, oh my God, they're turning into another version of Hydra. Like this corrupt organization is being built. And it's like, well, Zemo was right. Like she's become a radical, one that can't be controlled. Right. And the thing is, how will they stop her? Will they have to kill her? I hope not. I hope Sam has to like defeat her and then they're able to lock her up in the raft, or like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, what are your thoughts?
Dude, I would bet anything that, like, I think you're right. Sam probably won't be the one to kill her, but I think if Sam's able to talk her down and John Walker is on the scene, he is going to fucking kill her. Like he already took advantage of one of her quieter moments the first time Sam was kind of like talking her off the ledge. So now that he's going to be U.S. agent and doesn't have to abide by any of the rules set to him by the government, I think he would absolutely take advantage of that moment. And he has a super soldier serum in him now, so he's not afraid to like tangle with her. I think if that moment does take place, I think John Walker would end up killing her.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think it will be John Walker to give the final blow. I do think the way the show is going, it's going to be one of those atonement things where, like, with her last breath on the brink of death, whatever the case may be, she finally understands some of the error of her ways. And she's like, hey, I've become the people I hate and the people I'm trying to destroy. Harvey Dent, Dark Knight, said it best. You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think that's what's happening with her. She's like, hey, I see them fighting in these methods. Why can't we fight in these methods as well? But I love the hole that she's going down, this story that she's going down, because, like, again, we can see this in life, what happens with a lot of people where you try to do good. You try to do good. And in you trying to do good, some of the worst possible outcomes can happen in that. So I love, like, the dynamic of her character in this show. Like, she legitimately wants to help people, but in that she's killing people. Now, like, she blew up the building with people in it. She's like, I'm going to have to become the same people I hate in order to achieve my good. So it's crazy, but I do see her character finding some sense of enlightenment in the midst of death. I just see that type of story playing out. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't think they can have Sam Wilson kill anybody.
Nah.
For him
definitely not.
Continue to be Captain America, you know? Someone else will have to do it.
Yeah, man, like, there's so many great things about this show. Like, there is no one person that you can say, oh, they're one note, right? Because you definitely empathize with the Flag Smashers. These are people just trying to do good things for the people that were displaced. Like, the GRC is supposed to do all of these different things, much like the government in real life, and they don't actually fucking do anything. There are people still hungry, people homeless, they don't have food, they don't have healthcare, nothing. They have nothing. And the GRC is doing all of this marketing, and they're on TV talking about all of the things that they do. You're not fucking doing anything, bro. And this is where Sam is like, I believe in what you're doing, but not the way you're fighting it. And I really hope that Sam is able to get through to her, but man, would it be really crazy if the moment Sam gets through to her, U.S. agent kills her. That would be absolutely insane. Like, that would break me. And then on top of that, we get the post-credit scene, and then he's building a new shield, cementing him to be U.S. agent. Oh, man. Like, what did you guys think about the end credit scene?
Dude, that shield's going to be crap, dude.
Right?
Like, it's not made out of vibranium, so it's just like standard metal.
Yeah.
The first thing I looked at, I was like, oh, it's small. And the first thing I looked at, I was like, oh, it's small. Oh,
there are multiple rings to it, Darren. Like, he's not making like a baby shield.
I was like, oh, poor little Tink Tink.
Yeah, I think, have you guys seen the trailer for, like, it's like a mid-season trailer? It shows what the shield looks like.
Yeah.
After it's like fully constructed. Yeah, I don't think that shield's good. I think one punch from Bucky's metal arm and that thing's gonna shatter.
It's going somewhere. Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer. I'm trying to avoid the trailers for the TV shows. Because, like, the TV show trailers showed Sam training with the shield.
Right.
And I didn't want to see that.
Yes.
But I'm glad I had the moment. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't want to see that. Like, in the trailer, like, I knew that moment was coming. So I'm trying to avoid the trailers. If another Loki trailer drops, now I'm watching that. But besides that, I'm trying to avoid it just because, like, it's around the corner.
Yeah. So, we're on the last episode, so I mean, there's no reason to.
Yeah. Darren, you brought up being excited to see Sam's new vibranium suit. So when I saw the case, I was like, Oh my god. Sam is going to get a vibranium suit with vibranium wings, bro. I texted Chris immediately. I'm like, dude, he's going to get a vibranium suit. I think
so
it's going to be
excited.
awesome. I think it's going to be a whole suit with the wings, but even if it's just the wings, I'll be okay. I'll be okay with that.
Because it's a suit. What kind of don't half-ass anything? I
know. I can't wait to see it, bro. And even in the thumbnail for this episode of Villains, I really hope that it's the Wakanda version of that Captain America suit from the comics. I will lose my shit, bro.
I think it's going to be eerily similar. It's just, I don't know. I really feel like Marvel can outdo themselves with this suit.
I mean, look at Wanda's suit at the end. Like, her suit is way better than anything she's ever had.
Bro,
it's awesome.
But also look at the technology that the MCU has given us from, like, the type of what they display with the technology. Black Panther suits, Killmonger suit, even the shield that Captain America had in Infinity War. Just like the aesthetics and how they look, it's amazing. So I can't wait to see what they're about to do with this damn suit. So I'm excited. Well, I told you, the moment he puts it on, I don't really even need any music. It could be completely like just the moment with him wearing it, looking just so majestic. Like, I am going to shed a tear. I can't wait for him to wear this suit.
Dude, James, what did I say when we were watching the first episode? I said something like, Sam has his own musical theme in the show, but we also still have Cap's theme, right?
Yes.
So I predict that when he puts the suit on, we're going to get, it's either going to be full Cap theme or we're going to get like a merger of the two themes just to show that he is Captain America now.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Like, that will definitely make me cry for sure. Pedro brought up in chat, the wings could be nanotech. I think that would be dope. That's very in line with what Shuri does. It's very in line with Wakandan tech. And I'll take it a step further. I want the suit to be able to absorb kinetic energy, much like T'Challa's suit.
I didn't even think about that.
Because Sam would actually get way more out of that than T'Challa. Because T'Challa is enhanced, right? Sam isn't enhanced in any way. So if he has a suit that can absorb kinetic energy and then be able to redisplace it, I'll lose my mind. I will lose my mind.
In fact, they got to give him an extra layer or something. Because again, he's not a super soldier.
Yeah, he's just a person.
So I think they will give him something that helps him kind of combat that. So like if he's around the enemies with a bunch of bullets flying in which way, just his wings alone may not protect him. So I love that they give him like, type of nanotechnology in the chest plate or the legs or whatever the case may be. Just something throw a little bit of extra Wakandian love on it. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I want, right? I want it to be tailored to Sam, but I want it to be very, very much Wakandan.
Yes. Yeah,
so
100%.
I will say this. I have seen the suit. And I think didn't I share it with you, James?
No.
Okay. It's very cool.
Send it to me.
I don't know if you're upset or you want to see it, James.
I want to see it now. I'm upset.
I'll send it to you after the show. It's very cool.
Oh my god.
But I'm excited to see it in motion. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think about the kinetic energy thing. Like, that would be so dope if they built it into the suit. That would be awesome. Because we were talking earlier, like, you're absolutely right, James. He needs a little something extra, just a little extra protection. Like, he has the skill set, he has the fighting ability, he has the strategic mind. Like, he can do this on his own, but like, he's just a man. Give him like a bulletproof vest or something, for God's sake. Like, he's not immune to bullets.
Yeah,
so
that Wakandan suit
will
automatically make him bulletproof. But it's just like, I think it would be great. Like, if he takes on bullets, he can just send back the kinetic energy. If he gets punched by a super soldier, the suit would just absorb all of that energy and he can just redistribute it. I think it would be amazing.
It's so sick. I can't wait for next
I
week.
can't wait to see how the wings move. Like, just how, like, just to see how, like, they expand, how they contract, how they can bend, how they can turn. I'm excited.
Oh man,
it needs to be next Friday right now.
Right? That's what I was saying after I watched the episode, because it took me like 2 hours to watch this episode, because every time something happened, I would pause
Go
it,
back.
think about it, rewind it, watch the whole thing again. I'm like, nah, I need to see that whole thing again. I think I watched that scene with Zemo and Bucky like 3 times. The scene between Sam and Bucky at the end, I think I watched that like 4 times. Like, I just went back and forth constantly, because all of these moments were so amazing and so impactful, bro. Like you already said, Darren, like, we didn't even need a bunch of fight scenes. Just all of these character moments had me on the edge of my seat. Right? Like, I was sitting in my chair, literally on the edge of my seat, and it wasn't until the end of the episode was over that I sat back and I realized that I was literally on the edge of my seat the entire time.
That's awesome.
It is a testament to how amazing the writing is in this series, and just the MCU series in general. This is why I can't wait for Loki and Armor Wars and the series with Riri Williams and all of these different things, Miss Marvel. I can't wait to see how these are going to be handled, because there's not a lot you can do in 90 minutes, right? In a movie, there's not a lot of characterization that you can do when you need to introduce characters, introduce the plot, get to the third act fight, and end the film, right? There's not a lot
you have to be more
do.
concise, focused.
Facts. Yeah, you gotta. There's little you can do, and we've seen in films where it's just like a lot of Marvel films, like, yeah, they expand on the main hero, but all of your side characters and villains are trash because of that. So I love the fact that these shows, I mean, we say like 100 of them are out already, but these 2 have literally like hit on every note so far. And I love the fact that they're flushing out not only the main heroes or the main protagonists, but the antagonists as well. Like, they're getting a good bit of shine too. Like, I vibe with the villains more in Falcon Winter Soldier than I have in almost 3/4 of all Marvel films.
Facts.
so like, yeah, so I much rather take a lot of these villain type stories over a lot of the stuff that they have tried to give us in 90 minutes or 2 hours. So I'm highly excited for more TV shows down the pipeline.
Definitely. So I want to get into final thoughts before we head out for the night. So Chris, I want to start with you. What are your final thoughts on this episode?
This was my favorite episode of the whole season. With both of these shows, the penultimate episode has been my favorite. And both for WandaVision and for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the episodes were character pieces. You know, in WandaVision, it was solely Agatha taking Wanda down memory lane, trying to figure out what caused all this trauma in her life. And there was a ton of world building. And same with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like we've said, it was literally just Bucky and Sam hanging out for most of this episode, talking to each other, like becoming closer as people, growing as men. Like, this is definitely my favorite episode of the whole season. And I think it's going to remain my favorite episode of the whole season, even without seeing the finale. Based on what we've seen with WandaVision, going forward, I think it would actually be smarter. I know they won't do this. They're not listening to me, but it would be smarter for Marvel Studios to actually release the last 2 episodes together, because this episode felt like the first half of a third act of a movie, whereas we're getting the character moments, we're building to this epic action-packed finale. But with this format, what that means is that the finale is just going to be action. And I know while the action is awesome and I love it, and like that's partly why I come to Marvel movies, I know a lot of people were disappointed with the finale of WandaVision because you had this huge think piece of a television show and the last episode was just action for the most part, outside of like the Ship of Theseus scene. Like, it was all action. And I understand how like that can kind of be disappointing when the rest of the show is something else. It probably won't be as bad for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but yeah, I think going forward, maybe they should cut an episode of a season and just make the last episode super long or something. But yeah, I think this is going to remain my favorite episode of this series.
It might be for the exact same reasons that you're saying as well. Darren, what are your final thoughts?
You guys can hear me, right? Because I had to switch my headphones.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm right there with you, Chris, for a lot of same reasons. I actually feel like as far as the main character wise, the arcs of the characters are kind of similar. Like Wanda, like being at her most like vulnerable moment and then becoming the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
We have Sam, and then at his lowest moment, which
Absolutely.
we believe, now he finally becomes the, and that's a capital, the Captain America. So I agree with you. We see similarities in the patterns that Marvel has given us, where it's just like, all right, is this going to be the formula of how they go forward? I ain't mad at it, but it just saying,
neither am I.
like,
I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. And it's just like story, explosions. So is it like, are we going to get that? I do feel like this finale is going to have at least, 2 or 3 more like meaningful moments and conversations out of it. But I do feel, like you said, it's going to be mostly action, and might be a little upset by that. That's weird. Like, I want more conversations and character developments between these characters, but we all know they got to come to a head at some point.
Right.
Of course. But overall, this episode, I'm right there with you. Like, this might be my favorite episode overall in the show. I mean, in the series, mainly because like it had so many of those moments where it was real. Like, it's like, if we take the shield and all the superpowers, all the super soldier serums in the world don't help you deal with some of the realities of the situations that you're in. There's not enough Wakandan tech to sometimes get out the confines of your mind. So yeah, and I love the fact that this show kind of tackled a lot of that. And they did it in such a humbling way. It's not like the conversation was in the midst of, fighting enemies or anything like this. The conversation was in your aunt's backyard, was at a boat dock, whatever the case may be. I love that. And then it still kept up the same tempo because they were training with the shield. This episode definitely held a lot of weight for a lot of reasons. And it hit home on a lot of fronts for me, mainly because, again, I'm from Louisiana, and I feel a lot that these families brought when they were just like, oh, I got a few favors to call in. So I enjoyed it. I know the finale is going to make me tear up because, like, Marvel has given us that moment where they've earned, like, all of us collectively have earned the right to see Sam put on the suit and definitively pick up the shield. And this episode was the perfect gateway to that. And next Friday needs to get here. Because for nothing else, when he puts on that shield, I will pause. You
just got to look at it.
I just got to look, man.
Take it in. Take in the glory.
Look. One thing I do want, though, I think out of this, to your point, like, finales being a little bit more, or, giving us a little bit more because we know what to expect.
Right.
Theaters, this is your perfect time. Start putting this stuff in IMAX. Like, start putting this stuff in theaters where we have the choice to say, like, hey, I want to experience the first 2 episodes of a WandaVision, or the last episode of this, or maybe mid-season of Loki. I want to experience that in Dolby Vision. I want to experience that 4D smell-o-vision.
Dude.
All of it. I want it all in my face. So I do think at some point in time, if a Netflix or a Disney Plus buys out a movie theater and I can watch this, Mandalorian, Stranger Things, whatever, I have the option to watch it in theaters. Like, I'm totally here for it. And this episode gave us all, from the opening frames of the fight scenes to the last frames of them having conversations just about life and how to overcome it. I want these moments to be bigger. I want these moments to be seen in the highest formats possible. So, this definitely opened my eyes that, like, we need all of this in every format possible. For the people that don't have Disney Plus, or the people that's not stealing it from other people, go watch it in theaters. Like, there is no excuse for people not to see episodes like this.
It wouldn't be the first time that a television show has done that. There were a couple of Game of Thrones episodes I think you were able to see in theaters. Yeah. Doctor Who used to do that a lot, where you could see Doctor Who episodes in theaters.
Anime movies are like, that's a new popular craze now, seeing them in theaters. You can see football games in theaters now when they come out. So I would love the option.
All of it.
Facts. I would love to see the option of watching this in a theater, because I 100% would do that. I would hit up James and be like, yo, bro, come fly down here and watch episode 3 with me real quick. So yeah, 100%. But yeah, this episode as a whole just put me on a whole different wave, not only for this show, but what Marvel is doing in general for these characters and just people of color. So yeah.
Yeah, man, you guys said it all so perfectly. Like, I would love to see this in theaters. I mean, for fuck's sake, Inhumans got their first 2 episodes in IMAX.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, it's like, can I not get Falcon and Winter Soldier in
How
a
dare you
Dolby
mention
Vision?
its name?
But this episode was so powerful for me, like, as a black man, listening to Sam and Isaiah talk, listening to Sam and Sarah talk, listening to Sam and Bucky talk to each other, watching what's his name, Battlestar, what's his
Lamar Hoskins,
watching Lamar's parents talk to John Walker, like, all of this stuff, it's so important, it's so impactful, and it's hard to just look at this character and just be like, yeah, I hate John Walker. I don't. His Lamar's family loved John, right? They loved
He flat
him.
out lied to them, though.
Yeah. He that's because he didn't want to lose their favor.
Of
He
course.
wanted to stay within their favor because his friend died. But it's just the writing, the pacing, the score, the acting, absolutely everything was on point in this episode, and it is by far the best episode they've done so far. And like you guys, I don't know if the final episode is going to be able to top this for me, because this show and WandaVision has gotten me so used to hanging on every word of dialogue from all of these amazing character moments. I know I'm going to love all of the fight sequences that's going to happen between, you know, Bucky, Sam, John Walker, and the Flag Smashers, and all of that stuff. I know it's going to be great, but episode 5, with all of these amazing character moments, these deep character moments, and what this means for these characters going forward in the future, it was absolutely everything that I could ask for. Absolutely loved it. But we're gonna get out of here. Darren, where can the people find you online?
Yo, again, the name is movie_CEO, where CEO stands for Creative Entertaining Opinions. We look for the good, the bad, the better, worse, and everything. And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and hopefully more appearances on here, James.
Oh, definitely, bro.
But yeah, come find me. I tried to put all my reviews and videos on both platforms just so people have a way to, you know, check out my content if you're interested in it. But yeah, again, I love talking anything pop culture related, not always reviews. Sometimes it's just my reaction or just, you know, my thoughts on particular characters or stories. But I love to hear from you guys. We are a community. And I love to hear different perspectives. If it wasn't for these two, I wouldn't have been watching shows like Invincible and things like that. So like, you guys definitely come check me out. I look forward to hearing from you guys. But yeah, find me on Instagram and YouTube.
Chris?
I co-host a podcast called Popaholics. It's a pop culture podcast. Every Monday, we go over the week's industry news. So we talk about a bunch of Hollywood stories, what's going on, casting, new movies being made, stuff like that, as well as what we've been consuming over the course of the week. And then every Wednesday, we release episodes centered around a main topic of the month. This month, with the release of Godzilla vs. Kong, we've been covering a whole bunch of Godzilla movies. So this Wednesday, you can look forward to a conversation we had about the 2002 movie Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. It's a lot of fun. You can also find us on Twitter at Popaholics. Every week we have a weekly poll that kind of ties in to the theme of that week. And then for me personally, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling. Over there, I'm talking about, you know, television, movies, comic books, video games, collectibles, everything nerdy. I'm talking about it.
Yeah. You guys know you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, all of social media at JB Exclusive and at C4 Spoilers. If you guys aren't subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. We are doing villains every single Friday, where we're going to be bringing you reviews like this, where we're talking about Invincible, Falcon and Winter Soldier, The Flash, Superman and Lois. There's so many things to talk about. There's so many different topics that we're going to be bringing up on the show. Chris has already been on like 5 times at this point. Chris is going to be on the finale episode as well.
Dude, where is my jacket? I want my
I'm working
Villains
on it.
members jacket.
I'm working on it.
I've earned it.
I want to earn mine. I want to earn mine, James.
Darren, I will definitely get you back on the podcast, man. Like, I loved listening to you talk about this episode, and I love your thoughts on movies in general. Again, if you guys are not following Darren, please follow his Instagram in the description below. Subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. His thoughts on movies are excellent. I love talking.
Darren's also been on Popaholics, not to promote my podcast.
I have.
But...
Yeah, and that was a great episode. What was the topic on that one again?
We talked about Get Out, and then we talked about Us.
Yeah, we did the Jordan Peele.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, this episode was a lot of fun. I felt like we actually did like a really good breakdown of the entire episode and what all of these different moments meant to each of us individually. So I absolutely loved it. I love doing this show. Thank every single one of you that's in chat right now. I appreciate you guys showing up every single Friday, joining in the conversation. And we do this show live so that we can talk to you guys. Like, it's very special for me that I get to talk to you guys as I'm talking about it with my friends, because we're all friends here in this space. So again, I really, really appreciate every single one of you guys being here, and we will see you guys on the next one.